everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me once again for some more real estate content. Alright, so in today's video we're going to be talking about why houses are so expensive. Both economic factors, why houses in the United States have been rising in price over time, and just fundamentally, why are houses so expensive, period? Why is it such a big cost? Now again, it's no secret, houses just seem to get more expensive as time goes on. I've got a statistic for you here. According to data from the U.S. Census Bureau, the average price of a single-family home in 1940 was just $2,938. Even when adjusted for inflation, that figure only reaches $30,600. Another study from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis did a study on housing prices, and they found that the median price of single-family homes in the year 2000 was around $165,300. You could not buy a move-in ready house for that price right now in the year 2021. Now that number has reached $324,900. I would even say that in Portland and other hot markets, that number is even higher than that. Now, of course, pricing of homes will depend on the state that you live in. If you live in Portland, like me, house prices will be higher than in states like Missouri or South Carolina. And of course, Portland isn't a state. We're talking about Oregon, but the Portland metro area has seen a large increase in house prices. So it does depend on the state that you live in, but regardless of where you live, house prices have steadily gone up over the years. Now, a huge issue in terms of the rise of housing prices is that house prices have long outpaced wage growth. Wages used to grow at about 8 to 9% annually in the 70s and 80s, and now they're growing only about 2 to 3%. So people's income isn't growing fast enough to meet this new cost of housing. People are unable to afford it because their income simply doesn't match up. According to the most recent State of the Nation's Housing Report for 2019, the ratio of median home price to median household income in the U.S. was 4 to 1, which means that the median price of housing is over 4 times greater than the median income. So this creates an issue. Houses are going up in price, and many Americans are simply unable to afford these new house prices. So we're going to talk about what are the different factors, why are houses so expensive, what is causing houses to go up in price. Now, before getting into the reason behind the rise of housing prices over time, let's just talk about fundamentally why are houses such a big expense. And really what it boils down to is there's a lot of work, labor, and materials that go into building a home. You need to have land that needs to be landscaped. You need to make improvements such as sidewalks, sewers, gas and electric lines. You need to have the city approve whatever it is that you're building, so pulling permits for that is also a big expense. The material to build a house is also expensive, and right now the cost of material has gone up. We've got things like wood, cement, metal, concrete, granite and quartz, electrical wires, pipes. These things are not cheap, and the cost, as I said, has gone up right now. So right now, lumber, if you could buy a sheet of plywood for $18 a year ago, now that same sheet of plywood would cost you $40. The cost of copper has gone up, making electrical wires more expensive. And I'll put these costs up on the screen so you can reference them as well. So again, the cost of materials, another reason as to why houses are so expensive. Then, of course, you'll need people of different trades in order to help you build your home. Electricians, plumbers, roofers, painters, drywallers, etc. There are a whole lot of people that are involved in building a home, and these people have to be paid for their labor. Then there's appliances like your fridge, dishwasher, stove, and fixtures like cabinets, sinks, tubs, etc. These things also cost money and contribute to the overall expense of the house. So the bottom line is lots of labor and lots of material are the primary reasons as to why a house fundamentally is a big cost. Now let's get into the reasons why house prices have been going up over time. What are the different economic factors that have been influencing rising house prices? Now, as I said in my housing market video, which I highly recommend you watch, I'll link it up here somewhere, this is essentially a supply and demand issue. There's a lot of demand right now, and a lot of this demand is artificial demand. People are hearing that interest rates are historically low, which is true, and that's causing them to become buyers, even if they didn't really think about being buyers or looking for a home before the interest rates were so low. So lots of demand, but there are just not enough houses on the market to meet that demand. So buyers are competing, outbidding each other, competing against each other, trying to make their offers look as competitive and attractive as possible. And in the end, that is driving house prices upwards. And houses are often overpriced and overvalued just because there are a lot of buyers competing for few houses. These bidding wars are resulting in house prices going up. Each factor that I'm going to talk about after this relates back to the supply and demand issue. So I want you to keep that in mind as we're talking about all these different economic factors. The first factor we're going to talk about is increased regulations and restrictions in the form of zoning laws. Now, what is zoning? Zoning regulates how certain parcels of land can be used and what can be built on those parcels of land. So it'll regulate the classification of buildings that can be built on specific parcels of land. So, for example, I live in a residential area. That means that people cannot come in and build commercial buildings in the area where I live. They can't build skyscrapers or warehouses or stores because this is a residential area. So zoning will regulate that. It'll regulate the classification of buildings in a specific area. Zoning also regulates how big a house can be on a specific parcel of land, and it'll also regulate how high your house can be. I live in an R7 zone, which means that there can only be one single dwelling unit per 7,000 square feet of land. This obviously limits the amount of supply that is able to be built on specific parcels of land. The supply is controlled because of these zoning regulations. Permit and zoning requirements may keep investors from building in certain areas. They might see a parcel of land and have a vision for it and what they want to build on it, but zoning says, hey, no, you can only build a certain amount of houses here, or you can only build a certain type of building here. It can only be a residential home. It can't be a commercial building. So that might keep investors from building on certain parcels of land, which again is controlling the amount of supply. For Portland specifically, there might be some zoning changes coming up here soon, and that is encompassed in something called the Residential Infill Project, which I will dedicate a whole video to in the future. Essentially, this is going to go into effect August 1st of 2021, and this will allow more houses to be built on parcels of land. This will allow different rules and regulations in terms of zoning. So, for example, right now I live in an R7 zone, as I had said, so we can only build one dwelling unit per 7,000 square feet of land, but the Residential Infill Project might allow more houses to be built for that same 7,000 square feet of land, which will hopefully increase supply and regulate housing prices a little bit. And again, I will talk all about that in a future video. I think it's a very interesting topic, especially for my Portlanders, because this will really change the development and building of houses in the Portland metro area. The second reason why houses are so expensive is because high construction costs, high costs of materials are having builders pull back a little bit from new construction because it's simply too expensive to build a home right now. As we talked about when we were discussing fundamentally why houses are expensive and materials and how material costs have gone up, right now we're seeing a rise in costs of material. Tariffs on material coming in from other countries is another reason why material is so expensive. Because these new material prices are halting new construction a little bit, that is also limiting the amount of supply that is available for all the buyers out there. Prices of both lumber and steel, two primary building materials, have surged anywhere from 20 to 25% recently. Over the past year, softwood lumber has spiked 73%, and iron and steel scrap has surged 50.8% in the last 12 months. So again, the more expensive material costs are having builders pull back a little bit from new construction, which is contributing to the low supply, high demand issue. The third reason as to why house prices are going up is tied into, again, our limited supply conversation. Builders are simply not as confident now as they were before the 2007-2008 great financial crisis. Builder confidence has risen over the years, but it still hasn't gotten to the point that it was before the recession. Because many builders faced huge losses during that time, they might be less willing to take risks right now, and they aren't building as much new construction, and so again, that is contributing to our limited supply issue. Now, the fourth and final reason as to why house prices are going up so much is because of the low interest rates right now. So again, this is creating a lot of artificial demand. People are coming into the housing market even when they weren't thinking about buying before, and it's creating a lot of people that want to purchase a home and just not enough homes for them to purchase. So again, they are outbidding each other. People feel like they have to buy right now because the interest rates are so low. It's creating a sort of a sense of FOMO, or a fear of missing out. A quote I heard in a video I watched had said, "Loaning everyone more money just gives everyone more money to outbid each other." And that's truly the case. People are driving prices up themselves by being able to put so much money down on a house because of the low interest rates. We've seen a lot more mortgage applications in this past year from people trying to take advantage of the low interest rate. But what's interesting is that today CNBC released an article saying that mortgage refinance demand has decreased 43%, and that could be because the mortgage interest rate has creeped up a little bit. So we may be seeing some shifts in the housing market, some shifts in housing prices because of the interest rate creeping up a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes within the next several weeks to several months. So there you have it. Increased demand is creating a hunger for homes, and supply supply is simply not keeping up, and this is resulting in higher housing prices over time. People are entering the housing market right now due to historically low interest rates primarily. Supply remains on the lower end right now because of zoning restrictions, permit requirements, high cost of materials, and lack of builder confidence. And so all of these things put together, the low supply, high demand, because of all the factors that we talked about, is resulting in really high house prices. Now we understand why prices are so high. We understand the different economic factors that are resulting in these expensive house prices. And in the next video, we're going to talk about how you can afford a house even in this expensive market, even with these outrageous prices. We're going to talk about things that you can do to set yourself up for success and to make you a homeowner even if you're young. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate you spending your time with me, and I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you found it helpful or beneficial in any way, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps me out so much. Also, make sure to turn on the bell notifications so that you get notified every time I upload. I post regularly every Thursday at 8 a.m., and I hope to see you here next week where we talk about how you can afford a house in this outrageous market. Make sure to follow me on social media. My Instagram is @Irina Dee, and my TikTok is @Irina Dee PDX Realty. I post a lot of real estate content on there, so make sure you follow me to stay up to date on everything that is happening in real estate right now. All right, you guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.